Hey leader, David Burkus here, organizational psychologist and author of 4 best-selling books on helping leaders and teams do their best work ever. And in this episode, we're going to share 5 ways to build trust on your team. One of the easiest ways to determine how successful or not successful a team will be is to measure how much trust exists on that team as a whole. When members of a team trust each other, they're more likely to share information, they're more likely to share feedback, they're more likely to take risks, they're more likely to express crazy ideas that lead to those other brilliant ideas that we need on a team. They're more likely to admit failures and get the help that they need, and they're more likely to grow together and reach new levels of performance. But how do you build trust on a team? How do you get people to trust each other, and how do you get people to trust the team as a whole and you as a leader? Well, in this episode, we're going to share 5 ways to build trust on a team, 5 simple actions you can take that won't build trust overnight, because trust is not built overnight, but will start a virtuous cycle of trust building on your team. And if you keep them going, even if you just pick one and you keep it going, or you move through all 5, you will find new levels of trust on your team build much faster than you expected. Let's get started. The first way to build trust on a team is to build real bonds on a team. And I know it sounds like I just replaced the word trust with the word bonds, but I'm getting somewhere with that. I'm talking about actual relationships. I'm talking about friendships. We know from tons of research on engagement and also in trust that people who have real friends at work, that people who have best friends at work, that people who have strong positive relationships with the other members of their team, they're not only more trusting, but they're more productive, they're more engaged, they're less likely to quit, they have longer tenures. A lot of things start to go well when you build real bonds on a team, but you can't make people be friends with each other. What you can do is create opportunities for people to discover the uncommon commonalities that they may have with someone else on the team. This means making sure that we're having non-work, unstructured conversations, something that is harder to do if we're having conversations in a virtual environment, but not impossible. It also makes sure that you're using things like icebreakers and celebration of wins and other things to let people self-disclose, to the extent that they feel comfortable, things about their life outside of work. Personal details, past experiences, favorite hobbies, all of these things are fodder for a conversation that lets people discover those things they have in common with each other. Those uncommon commonalities become the beginnings of bonds, those bonds become the beginnings of friendship, and that friendship leads to more trust on your team. The next way to build trust on a team is encourage candor. Encourage people to actually speak up. Real candor, including when they disagree. You know, this is something a lot of leaders struggle with because we think we're making enough space for candor. We think we're making enough space for dissent and disagreement. We send out that long email with our thoughts about a certain situation, and then at the very bottom we put thoughts, ? As if that's enough of an invitation to express real candor. Or maybe in a meeting, an in-person or a virtual meeting, we'll kind of end the meeting with a quick little questions, concerns, clarifications, and then no one shares anything. These tactics, they're sort of like when you're an officiant at a wedding, when the officiant says, "Speak now or forever hold your peace." You know you're not actually supposed to say anything. And when your boss writes a long email and at the very end just writes thoughts, you know you're not supposed to say anything. So take it on yourself to encourage candor. Mention that you may have blind spots, that this is where you're thinking, but you know you're probably leaving something out. And who on the team can help me find those blind spots, point out the things that I'm missing, and take us all to a better program because of your candor. Now, once they express that candor, the way that you respond in a way that is respectful, in a way that considers and makes sure that person feels heard, that's going to determine how everyone else who's watching responds in the future. It's not enough to just call for candor. You need to listen to that candor, respond to it respectfully so that people actually trust that that's what you want. And if you do that, you'll build trust on said team. The next way to build trust on a team is to spotlight wins. When people have wins, small and large, make sure the whole team knows them. This is just good for your overall team culture and for people having a positive, engaged sense of their role on the team. But in terms of trust, it's specifically important that people know that you as the leader are seeing what their wins are about. You as the leader are seeing those little victories, those things that they take personally. Even small stuff like being able to clear out a bunch of assignments and have some time to just focus in and learn and sharpen the saw, right? That's a win. Also, make sure you're celebrating the team-wide wins, the little ways that we're marking progress. We know that progress is a powerful human motivator, but we know that when we work for a boss who can see our wins, when we work for a leader who can see that the things that are important to me are important to the whole team, we're much more likely to trust that leader and to trust the whole team. So spotlight wins. Now, spotlight wins goes along with the fourth way to build trust on a team, which is to accept failures. It happens from time to time. And in fact, the majority of the time, failures are outside of the control of any one individual or any one team. But in a team that doesn't trust each other, you're gonna see quick excuses. You're gonna see blame shifting. You're gonna see people like playing a childhood game of hot potato, just trying to not be the last person holding the blame for fear of their job. We don't want that. We know that failures are inevitable. Sometimes projects just fall apart. Sometimes it's time to make a pivot. And most of the time, that's not any one individual's failing. It's either a team-wide failing or it's a situation that was outside of our control. And if we accept that and we invite the team in to look at that failure and go, hey, what can we learn moving forward? How can we draw some lessons from this to make sure we're more likely to win next time? If we accept those failures, we end up sending a message to everyone on the team that you can come to me with those personal failures. You can come to me and admit those mistakes because we're not going to criticize you for them. We're not going to judge you harshly for them. We're going to pull the lessons out of them and let those lessons make everyone better. And as a result, not only will everyone be better, but everyone will trust you and the rest of the team more with those failures. It's a positive cycle, believe it or not, that starts with failure and how you respond, whether or not you accept it or whether or not you're just trying to find someone who has to take the blame for it, determines whether or not your team gets any better and whether or not it trusts each other. And the last way, and this really actually goes hand in hand with the accept failures method, the last way to build trust on a team is to model vulnerability. Show your team what vulnerability and what trusting looks like. Be willing to admit your mistakes, but also be willing to admit your potential blind spots and your potential biases. Most teams, at least the culture of most teams, is shaped by how leaders respond to each other in interactions. Do they demonstrate trust and respect, but also are they willing to admit that they're not perfect either? Look, teams are made up out of people, and because they're made up out of people, that means that there are going to be some failures. It makes no sense to pretend that you, just because you're in a leadership role, are totally blameless. And in fact, the opposite is true. When you're willing to take on more blame than you may even logically feel is responsible for you, when you're willing to take ownership of failures and model that vulnerability, you'll get teammates who are willing to take ownership of the ways that they may contribute to positive successes, but also negative to failures. And you'll get a team that starts to trust each other with much more honesty around these things because you modeled that vulnerability and that self-disclosure of being able to admit your failures, your biases, your blind spots, and the things that keep you from being your best self. Believe it or not, modeling that vulnerability makes you a better leader. Now, this is not an exhaustive list of the ways that you can build trust on teams, but what all of these actions have in common is they start with you as a leader, either making space for building bonds or making space for people to have honest candor with you and with each other, or by modeling vulnerability. All of these things set in motion a leader-initiated but team member followed cycle of success that will compound. Trust isn't given, trust isn't earned, trust is reciprocated. And so these are actions that you take right off the bat. Be willing to trust your team with these actions, and they will grow in their trust of you in turn, and they'll trust of each other in turn. And as a result, you'll get a team where everybody feels like because they can trust each other, they can truly do their best work ever.